Hello there everyone, how you doing today? I hope you're all well. Today we're going into a new subreddit, r/LetsNotMeet, where people share their scary encounters with strangers. If you enjoy, like and subscribe, leave a content down below, and hit that notification bell. Let's get started, shall we? Cyberstalker sent me death threats. Warning, allusions to unaliving, death threats, and harming language. Do not listen if this could upset you. Well, I've recently found this subreddit and decided I would share a story to you all. This happened back in 2019-2021, and it still sticks with me today. I will be using a fake name for myself and the man I'm talking about. Mary for me, Dennis for him. When I was 13, I met someone on Discord. He was funny, smart, and exactly my type. He was also 16. I don't know my logic with that being okay at 13, but I was stupid and naive. We became close friends. About 3 months of knowing him, I told him I had feelings for him. Then we ended up, quote-unquote, dating. We lived across the country from each other and were basically just friends, but whatever. So as long as we are dating, he starts basically grooming me. As a kid who was always on the internet and was exposed to KIK also, I was used to this behavior and thought it was fine. He had me send nude photos, gross messages, and pretty much worship him. I wasn't allowed to talk to people on Discord without him there, and stuff like that. He told me he would off himself if I ever left, or how he was always on substances because he was so sad. He was also incredibly racist and thought Nazi jokes were okay. I'm very mad at myself for not realizing it wasn't okay back then. He ends up cheating on me with his ex and tossed me out the door. He doesn't talk to me anymore and says we shouldn't talk anymore because we aren't together. And here's when it gets bad. No, this happened over 5 years ago and I have a spotty memory of the time. New accounts pop up in the server we met on. It was a server of mutual friends and they start saying horrible things about me. Mary is a fat whale, Mary is an Ensler, and more things of the sort. The accounts have names like Jerry Touches Kids or Big Fat Whale, etc. I had gotten in trouble with the server owners because it was my fault that people were saying these things, like I had told them to spam things about me or something. The accounts also start messaging me to off myself, to die, how I'm a whale, a whore, and more. I ended up blocking every account and moved on with my life. Great, it was over with, or so I thought it was. Fast forward a year till late summer of 2019, everything starts up again. The messages, him telling people lies and rumors and direct threats. I was sent unsolicited naughties. Death threats, slurs, and that I should off myself because no one cares. At that time, I had undiagnosed depression and anxiety, and almost did off myself. I went to therapy and tried to get over it. In 2020, right, was when the quarantine happened. I got a boyfriend. I was super happy and came back out of my shell. He and I would play games on Discord together, and I joined more servers. Around 2 months ago, I got another message. Someone had messaged me named Lily. I believed it was a normal profile, and we were in a server together, so I thought nothing of it. She messaged me how I was, and I had never talked to her before, so I was confused. She said we had a long conversation about mental health the day before, so she wanted to make sure I was alright. I asked who she was and what she was talking about, and she said something like, "Oh, you told me about this. You said you take medicine for schizophrenia and that you must have missed a dose. Are you off your meds?" I was extremely confused and scared because I never talked to this person, and I certainly didn't have schizophrenia. About 10 minutes of this charade, I realized it was Dennis. I blocked the account and didn't accept new friend requests. And the next day I got hundreds of messages with the same contents I previously mentioned. The threats, the naughties, and so on. I was so terrified and I asked my boyfriend for help. He told me to make a new account and not friend any of the other mutual friends so he couldn't find me. I did, which cost an affiliated Twitch account that I had spent years building. I changed all of my accounts, deleted most, and made new ones. And the messages found me again. I had no idea how. These new accounts weren't tied to me, and I got fed up and asked a mutual friend I thought I could trust some personal information about Dennis to go to the police and get a possible restraining order or something. I didn't totally know how police handled these issues. Months go by and nothing. Until the fall of 2021, in which Dennis messages me calling a stupid female dog and how he will always find me, how I'm so fat and dumb and no one loves me. I isolated myself and deleted more accounts. I never was able to go to the police because I had no information like his full name or address. It's been 2 years, and every day I worry if he lives near me, if he knows where I live or where I go to school. I recently found out he had a website and made YouTube videos. He made YouTube videos referencing me in 2022. His copyright claim is something like Marry the Fat Whale Incorporated. I can't find it anymore, so I put the closest to what I remembered, and it was hell. I'm still worried every day that he will find me. I believe he has a Reddit account and could find this. I hope we don't meet again, Dennis. I wish you the worst. Stare down with robbers. So this happened last winter. Fog starts setting in my city at the time of sunset, and it gets really dark really soon. Now, my university has a policy of not interfering in anything that happens outside, even if it's right outside the gate in front of the guards. A few days before my stare down, there was some talk going around about a student's phone getting snatched right outside uni. So one day, me and my boyfriend were sitting in a car outside, but right beside the college wall and 20 meters away from it, probably the college gate. He wanted to go use the restroom and asked me to come inside with him, but I'm like, nah, I'm too tired, you go and I'll wait. So he went, leaving his phone with me. I was using my phone, sitting inside on full brightness setting. Suddenly, a bike beelined towards the car. The two men sitting in it had these ski masks on and started tapping the car window on the driver's side with a gun. It's important to note that the passenger side where I was sitting was right beside a gutter, so they couldn't come too close to me. They backed off and again came forward, tapping the window, looking at me through the windshield, and motioning me to roll down the window. I was too stunned to do anything and they drove away when they saw other people approaching. All I wanted to do was save my boyfriend's phone, which was under my thigh, so well, mission accomplished. On to the next story. On to the next story we go. Kidnapped and zip-tied. So now that the case is over and I can talk about it freely, I figured I would share the story of the time I got kidnapped. I was 20 at the time and just got off work around 11 p.m. and went straight home to ready to go out and meet my friend at the strip club. He messaged me via Facebook Messenger to hang out and smoke, and I told him I was meeting a friend and didn't want to hang out, so he offered to drive me to and from the strip club. Well, at around 12:30 a.m., he came to pick me up and said he had to dump some garbage first. He had a couch on the back of his pickup truck, which I assumed was the garbage. He was talking about how he said he made us margaritas, but I told him I didn't want to drink till I got to my destination, so we ended up just smoking marijuana on the way to dump the couch. It was about a 25-minute car ride to where he wanted to dump the couch, and by the time we made it to the destination, it was about 1:15 a.m. There was a logging road just off to the side of the highway that goes for miles. He pulled all the way down to the end and left the couch there, and got back in the truck and started driving back towards the highway. But once we got halfway back to the highway, he stopped, put his truck in park, and then pulled out a pipe and started smoking Mary J. After taking a hit, he turned his head to me and stared at me for a minute with a weird smirk on his face. Then all of a sudden, he almost looked like he wanted to jump at me, but stopped himself in the moment, with his hands in a motion that was about to grab me. I got scared at this point and was frozen in shock, not knowing if it was a joke or not. I quickly realized it was not a joke and opened my door like I was about to get out, and he did the same. I closed my door and he closed his too. We ended up playing door tag. Eventually he got tired of it and got out of the truck and ran to my side. I was in the passenger seat. He opened my door and tried pulling me out by the legs as I was trying to kick him. I pulled my phone out to call the police, and of course my Face ID didn't work in that moment, and he ended up snatching the phone out of my hands. I kicked him hard enough in the chest, and he flew backwards, falling to his butt. I grabbed my purse and hopped out of the truck and started running towards the highway. I kept looking back to see how far behind me he was. He gave me a head start before running after me, grabbing me by the back of my shoulders and forcefully throwing me into a ditch. I landed on my stomach with one leg straight out and the other one bent at a weird angle. He sat on top of my legs and was holding my left hand behind my back. I screamed and begged him to bring me home and that I wouldn't tell anyone. He got upset that I was screaming and tried suffocating me with his other hand, whilst holding my left hand behind my back. I kept trying to pull his hands off my face with my right hand because it got to the point where I couldn't breathe. Finally, he let go of my face, and I turned my head around to see what he was doing, and to my surprise, I watched him pulling out zip ties out of his front jean pocket. He zip-tied my hands behind my back, then tried forcefully pulling my panties off me. I had a skirt and was still laying on my stomach. I remember digging my knees into the ground so he couldn't get them off. He didn't. He got up and started pacing, saying it shouldn't have happened just this way. I should have just done what he said. I cried, telling him if he was going to do anything to me, then just put me back in the truck, and he did. Not going to go into detail about this part of the story, but what I did notice was he pulled out a really small Ziploc baggie out of his jean pocket and pulled out a condom. He took the condom out of the actual wrapper and put it into a really small Ziploc baggie. I asked him what it was for, and he said, "It's for protection." After all that went down, he got back into the truck. Mind you, I'm still tied up, and he drove back to the highway and started driving around. I made up every excuse to get him to take them off me, and he wouldn't. I asked for a cigarette. I don't even smoke cigarettes, and he lit one. Smoked on it a bit and held it up to my mouth, saying, "I'll hold it for you." At this point, I thought to myself, what can I do to get myself out of this situation? I thought I was going to die. I started saying things like, "You can be my sugar daddy, and I will pay to take us out to dinner tomorrow. If sex is all you wanted from me, you could have just said that." He loved it so much he started saying he would put all of his life insurance policy on me, so when he dies I can get the money. Eventually I asked him again if he would take the zip ties off. They were so tight it was cutting my circulation. He pulled off to the side of the road and pulled out a mini pocket knife from his car keys and cut them off me. It took a few tries because of how tight they were, and gave me my phone back. I had an Apple Watch on my wrist and asked him for it after noticing it wasn't on my wrist anymore. And he had this surprised look on his face and said, "We need to go back and get it." He turned around and headed back to where all of this just happened at. I was so scared and thought, yep, that's it. I'm going to die tonight, and nobody will know until somebody finds my dead body. Once we got there, he told me to stay in the truck, and he got out and searched the ditch for my watch. He came back to the truck after 5 minutes and said he couldn't find it, but it would be back in the morning to look when it's light outside. We got back to the highway and headed back to town. Once we got back into town, he asked me, "What do you want to do now?" I said, "Bring me to my mom's house. I have to work in 4 hours and I'm tired." It was about 4:30 a.m. by this time, and he brought me to my mom's. After getting to my mom's house, I looked up his name on Google, and he was on parole for first-degree murder. He had served 17 and a half years in prison for murdering somebody for their life insurance policy. I'm 22 now, and I'm thankful I got to see another day. I was subpoenaed to testify against him, and he was found guilty November 6th of 2023 of all the charges. As of now, he hasn't been sentenced yet. That's the end of this story. Let's get on to the last one. man in the field. I work overnights at a 24-hour diner. You can probably guess what company. I'm used to weird people and odd things happening, but tonight was too much. The restaurant backs up to a field that has a tree line, and my cook and I went outside to smoke. We could hear someone yelling in the distance, but we get a lot of homeless people that come through town that are usually harmless, so we just shrugged it off as weird and went back inside. Later, I came out again to smoke and throw away some trash in the dumpster that is next to the field. It was stupid to go over to it, but I hadn't heard him again. As I'm walking away from the dumpster, I hear, "Hey, come here, come here, come here." It was much closer than when I heard him yelling the first time. I went inside and got my coworker who owns a car with a spotlight on it. We shined it out into the field, which again, not smart, and we admit that. But we couldn't see where he was, but he kept saying, "Hey girl, come here." I called the cops by this point because it was too freaking weird. As soon as I get off the phone with them, I called the cops again. My cook cut him off and told him he needed to go. The man was acting erratically, yelling at my cook and said, "I'll end your life next time I see you, fricker." He kept moving his jacket by the waist like he was flashing a weapon, but I couldn't see anything from inside. The cops get him down the road, and an officer came back and basically said this guy's homeless and not mentally stable. Well, no shit. We told them everything that happened, and my cook pressed charges on him. The officer told us that there wasn't anything they could do, and they wouldn't give her his name, so they could let him go. Basically ended with, "Oh, by the way, he's known to carry a knife in his waistband. Call us if you need us. Bye." He came back again, hauling ass across the neighboring parking lot and back in the field. We could hear him screaming and yelling, "Hey, come here," again and again. We got busy when the bar closed and haven't heard him yelling since, but I know he's still back there, because I had caught him sleeping behind the dumpster before. My manager comes in the morning, and I'm going to try to get her to let me take a picture of him off the security tapes, so I can warn the other third shift workers. The field that he's camping out in also backs up to a middle school, but the cops said again there was nothing they could do. Hopefully he moves on and leaves us alone, or the cops can get him on something where no one gets hurt. Thank you for watching today's video. I hope you all enjoyed. If you did, remember to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and leave a comment down below. Maybe check me out, links down below. I mean, I do have a Twitter, you know, or, well, it's called X now, but I refuse to call it such. I will see you next time. Hasta la pasta.